Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I'd like to thank the member for Goldstein for moving this motion today, and I'm proud to make a contribution to it. Just like him, I'm a waste warrior and care deeply about our environment as well. Mr Speaker, many Australians won't know that the average Australian generates nearly 3 tonnes of waste every year, and more than a tonne of this is thrown away, relegated to landfill, sent overseas, burnt or dumped in the ocean until now. This thing has changed in Australia. We know that almost 60 kilograms of plastic waste is produced per person each year, and if plastic pollution continues as it has, in 30 years our precious seas will be home to more plastic than fish. Mr Speaker, this is not a world any of us wants to live in, and the Morrison government has unequivocally shown its support in the last budget by funding waste reduction measures, increasing recycling rates and building capacity in Australia's recycling industry. You cannot do this without industry and sector capacity. And I'm proud to have called for a parliamentary inquiry into our recycling industry, and I encourage all to look at its final report, From Rubbish to Resources, Building a Circular Economy, and its 24 recommendations. Mr Speaker, the Morrison government is driving a $1 billion transformation of the industry. $190 million towards the Recycling Modernisation Fund will allow over millions of infrastructure to be leveraged in order to sort, process and manufacture waste materials. Not only will this allow Australia to move to phase in recycling of 645,000 tonnes every year in alignment with the Morrison government's world-leading export ban, as the Prime Minister has said. It's our waste, it's our responsibility. But this fund will create 10,000 new jobs over the next 10 years by expanding Australia's recycling industry and infrastructure. That translates to an increase of 32% of jobs in the Australian waste and recycling sector. And I was very pleased to speak to the Australian Waste Conference earlier this year. All Australian states and territories, bar the Northern Territory, have Recycling Modernisation Fund agreements in place, with 52 new infrastructure projects across the country. Just one instance, Mr Speaker, is in Victoria. The Morrison government has funded equipment to produce a new patented system for concrete slab foundations made from 100% recycled plastic. This kind of innovation is valued by the government, and grants like this will continue as Australia phases in our waste export ban. Mr Speaker, the Morrison government is establishing a Waste for Healthy Soils Fund to divert 3.4 million tonnes of organic material from landfill for productive use in agricultural soils. This is all about returning today's organic waste back to soil to ensure that soil grows our food for tomorrow, and our topsoil in Australia needs this organic waste. By achieving the Morrison government's goal of 80% recovery for organic waste, Australia will generate $401 million in industry value and add that to the Australian economy, create up to 2,700 additional jobs and avoid over 2 million tonnes of greenhouse gas emissions. Mr Speaker, the Morrison government has also committed $20 million towards product stewardship, whereby responsibility is shared for managing the environmental impacts of products we use every day. Gone are the days when companies can willfully ignore their products' ongoing environmental effects. The Morrison government is committed to this, and 20 businesses have already been supported through this scheme. One of those organisations is the Australian Food and Grocery Council, who have been granted less than $1 million to work to bring the food and grocery supply chain together to deliver a national scheme to enhance the collection and processing of plastic packaging. If you go to your supermarket, you can already see these sorts of initiatives being rolled out. And this will help us to recover plastics, which are an estimated 189,000 tonnes each year. This is about getting on with the job of helping Australia's future. Mr Speaker, the Morrison government understands we need to invest in the sector and continue to support Australian businesses who are not just innovative but future-focused. And that's why we're supporting small and medium-sized businesses to adopt the Australasian recycling scheme. And this will help improve their recycling of packaging and compete with large businesses, and will help Australians to be better informed about the purchase they're making and foster an attitude that is considerate of their role in the environment and our world's future. Mr Speaker, this billion-dollar transformation of the recycling sector is a once-in-a-generation, and I commend the Morrison government for their leadership and investment in Australia's future, an investment that will see Australia's waste footprint fall by 10 million tonnes. It will help protect our environment. It will help create 10,000 jobs over the next decade. What's not to like about that? Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Question is that the motion be agreed to, and I call the member